Now, I predicted Coco Gauff to beat Iga Swiatek in the Madrid Open semifinals, but absolutely nothing could have prepared me for that 6-1, 6-1 scoreline. I know many of y'all are wondering, was it more about Gauff just playing so unbelievably well or Iga just being so off her game? But what we can say for sure is that Wim Fizette might need to spruce up his LinkedIn profile because it's not looking good for him. Hey, I'm Christian Bastnight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever I post more new Madrid Open content. So in my last video, I talked about how I felt that the head-to-head aspect of Iga holding that 11-3 head-to-head with Coco before this match wouldn't really be as much of a factor. Of course, Coco she had won their last two meetings and in straight sets nonetheless, and I felt that both these two women were at different points of their careers game-wise. And yes, of course, Iga held a 5-0 head-to-head over Gauff on clay. We all know that Iga's the queen of clay right now. And yes, Iga has never lost a set against Coco in all their 5 matches on clay leading into this one, but we cannot forget that while clay is clearly Iga's favorite surface, it's also Coco's favorite surface. And it's really crazy to me that this is actually their most lopsided result in their rivalry. And there have been quite a few straight sets wins in Swiatek's favor, but now Coco holds the most straightforward win in her column in this rivalry, which is so interesting. And talking about the match, of course, Coco really set the tone in the beginning stages of the match. She was all on top of Iga's serve, both really her first and second serves. And this was smart because she knew that this would be like the earliest opportunity for her to get Iga on the defense and for Coco herself to control a lot of the baseline exchanges. And she really did this beautifully. And it's really why Swiatek only managed to win 40% of her second serve points. And Iga didn't have that much success on her first serve either. She managed to win just 41% of her first serve points won, which is, that's really telling. That shows a lot and why the scoreline was so decisive in Gauff's favor. Really, Iga's first serve was not firing at all. She was not really hitting her spots and going up and after it because she didn't have enough rhythm to do that. And she was kind of forced to kick her first serve in. And she had a high first serve percentage, 69% of first serves in, but it clearly was not enough for her to get routine holds. Coco's serve, meanwhile, was really simply phenomenal. She hardly lost points on her first serve in her quarterfinal victory over Mira Andreeva, and that trend continued here against Swiatek. She won 90% of her first serve points in this entire match, 19 out of 21 of her first serve points. And really, this was her best serving performance of the year by far in my book. She really went up and after that first serve. She wasn't just spinning it in, and it really gave serve bite at times, the way she was going, again, up and after the first serve. And she ended up with 7 aces to just 1 double fault. Her second serve also held up beautifully as well. She won 69% of her second serve points, which is really a great stat. And also, Coco made history as the only woman to never face a break point against Swiatek on the clay, which again is a crazy stat. Now, talking about what went down from the ground, Coco has been adamant about how she's been more keen on letting the altitude in Madrid do the work for her and assisting her with her spinnier, heavier forehand. And we saw that on full display today. She got the ball high and out of Iga's strike zone oftentimes, and it was really quite something to witness Coco bully Swiatek, not necessarily from the pace, but with her heaviness and spin from that forehand side. And Madrid really should be her most successful tournament because it's on clay and the altitude further favors her forehand and how it's able to get higher and out of opponent strike zones. Coco also did an exceptional job with wrong footing Iga, just taking advantage of really Swiatek's subpar movement that we've witnessed this tournament. One thing I mentioned in my preview video for this match was that Coco really has elevated her forehand and it's evolved big time since the US Open from last year, specifically to handle opponents like Swiatek, because Swiatek, she was definitely dominating the forehand-to-forehand exchanges. She was able to really exploit Gauff's formerly weaker forehand and how she formerly kind of armed the forehand a lot of times. This time the roles have completely reversed, and Coco won nearly all of the forehand-to-forehand rallies, which it's like night and day from how it was previously. Coco also said herself in the Tennis Channel desk interview with Prakash Amatraj that she felt she was really solid off the ground, and that forced Swiatek to go for more and bail out of a lot of the rallies early on, and that was a really spot-on assessment from Gauff herself. You even had Iga try to charge the net sometimes, which is not really a great strategy because, for one, Coco is such a great mover, especially on clay, and then two, Iga is not that comfortable at the net herself. The court positioning stats show exactly how much Iga was trying to press and do a little bit too much, in my opinion. Meanwhile, Gauff was comfortable kind of not doing too much and was more comfortable with her solid ground strokes. Now, talking about the stats, they show how error-prone Iga was in this match. 7 winners to 28 unforced errors is not going to get it done. Coco, meanwhile, hit 18 winners to just 8 unforced errors. And it was quite something to watch Iga just go off the rails like she did for really the entire match. It was downright ugly, being truly transparent. Like I told y'all in the last video, I felt that Coco was back after she beat Andreeva in that quarterfinal match. I wasn't that confident in saying that Iga was quite out of the trenches after she beat Madison Keys, because while it was impressive that she was able to turn around that match after she got bageled, a lot of that was about Maddie just giving her a lot of easy unforced errors. And I said that Coco wouldn't do that. Coco is a little bit too solid, and Gauff, she remained solid enough to let Iga kind of self-implode out there. That's exactly what happened. As I alluded to earlier, Iga talked about after the match how her movement was really a big culprit for her and preventing her from having a lot of success out there today. She said, "I felt like I haven't been moving well, and the tennis was also like on and off for much of the tournament, so I wasn't really sure what I have in my toolbox, but yeah, I felt like I didn't have a plan B because nothing was working today." That's really an accurate assessment from Swiatek, because I said myself that I felt Iga wasn't really playing her best this tournament, and she would have to raise her level another notch if she wanted a shot at beating Coco. I didn't expect her to come out and play this poorly, but again, it goes to show how tough Gauff can be on the clay and being able to exploit and really bring the worst out of her opponents. Iga is not immune to that either herself. Swiatek honestly looked miserable out there, aside from her just horrid performance and horrid play where she was missing nearly every shot long sometimes. She looked unhappy and in distress, and at one point she was even cussing out her team, I think in Polish, and received a code violation for that. She even broke down in tears at one point, and it just sums up how hard it's been for her this season. And I really felt bad for her just breaking down like that with the towel over her face. I didn't like to see that. Losing to Gauff especially will hurt for Iga, because she owned the head-to-head with Coco, of course 11-1 before the WTA finals last year, and really that was her pigeon. She could rely a lot on beating Coco, but that's clearly not the case anymore. And for Iga to lose not only to Gauff, but 3 times in a row in straight sets nonetheless, that's got to be rough for her. Of course, a lot of fingers will kind of be pointed towards Iga's coach, Wim Fizette, as they haven't had necessarily the most successful partnership since they started working together towards the end of last season. This could be the final straw for Swiatek, losing 1-1 like this to Gauff. I don't think she's going to fire him before Rome and Roland Garros. I think they'll thug it out together, but low-key, I wouldn't be surprised if she did. I don't think that Wim, though, should take all the blame for this. Their partnership honestly looked good at the Australian Open, where Iga made the semifinals and possibly was 1 point away from taking the whole slam. But now she's just playing some of the worst tennis, really, of her career. I said this before when they first partnered with one another, that Wim, I felt, is a little bit overrated. Many of his partnerships are short-term things, but I do not think that all the blame should be put on the coaches in these instances. I think players should take some responsibility too. It's not all on the coaches. At the end of the day, the player is the one who is playing the tennis. I do feel like Iga's sports psychologist, Dara Abramowitz, has to step up and maybe do a better job herself, because Iga has not seemed to be in the best mental headspace. Of course, she's not going to be in the best mental headspace because she's losing, but still, maybe we should look at her potentially as well. This result, again, was a surprise because I wasn't expecting her to win this match, but to be handed that 1-1 loss to Coco is quite jarring. And Iga is now at risk of losing her number 2 ranking, as if Coco goes on to win the final, she'll take over that number 2 spot. And Iga has been ranked inside the top 2 for, I believe, 130 weeks. So maybe her being ranked 3rd would be a good thing for her and taking the pressure off. And perhaps coming into Roland Garros as a little bit more of an underdog could help for her. But I don't know if it'll make too much of a difference, because bottom line, Iga has lost her aura. And it could be a bad thing for Swiatek to be taking these L's like this. And it could continue to be a dent on her overall confidence. Now, I got to pop my ish a little bit, because y'all were kind of coming at me crazy in the comments. Not all of y'all, but some of y'all were like, how dare you have Coco beat Iga? Coco's never even won a set against Iga on the clay. You have no idea what you're talking about. And yes, again, Iga's the queen of clay, but Coco, she showed today why she is such a strong clay player herself. Her movement and defense is only amplified on this surface, and her forehand, again, it suits the clay so well, with the ball being able, she has more time, first of all, on the forehand, but also her forehand itself bounces higher and out of opponent's strike zone on the clay. And I feel like at the end of her career, she's going to be walking away with multiple Roland Garros titles. Coco said, again with Prakash, Coco said the key to her winning this match was her playing aggressive with margin, and I fully agree. It's really crazy to me how Coco might have like turned her season around with that Yastrzemska opening round match, because it was ugly. She got biggled in the opening set. She was definitely deep in the trenches, but she dug herself out of it this entire tournament. And it's crazy how one match can turn things around, and she has gradually improved her level match by match in Madrid. The Andreeva match told me everything I needed to know, and I knew she was definitely out of the trenches for now at least. I will say Coco still is such a confidence-driven player. I'm not going to jump the gun this time and say that, oh, she's going to dominate the tour for the rest of the year now. I still think she is going to be somewhat streaky, but when she is on, she shows that she is nearly unbeatable. We'll see if she can continue this level and take home the title, which would be her first individual title of the year and by far her biggest clay title of her career, as I believe I think she only has one clay title, and that was the Parma 250 from 2021. But regardless, in my eyes, I feel like she's going to be the favorite among the remaining women in Svitolina and Sabalenka, so we got to wait and see what happens there. That's all I have for this one. Let me know your thoughts on this really shocking match. Do you think that Iga maybe should think about firing Wim, or if it's more or less Daria that needs the boot? Also, do you think that Coco will go on to win the tournament? Let me know in the comments. Again, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell, because I do have my Madrid women's final preview still to make. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support. I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.